When leaders of the G20 countries representing two-thirds of the world's population met in Germany's Hamburg, they had many important issues like terrorism, sustainable development, climate change and energy on their agenda. Prior to the meeting, host German Chancellor Angela Merkel welcomed the leaders. PM Modi also received a warm welcome from Merkel, after which the participants posed for a commemorative photo. In the first session of the conference, PM Modi described terrorism as one of the most serious challenges of the present day and praised German Chancellor Angela Merkel for selecting this topic. PM welcomed the action plan against terror in the summit and presented a 10-point action agenda for it. Deterrent action against nations supporting terrorism must be made compulsory. Such nations should be barred from G20. G20 nations must exchange lists of suspected terrorists and their supporters. Legal processes such as extradition should be simplified and expedited. Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism should be adopted soon. UNSC resolutions and other international processes should be effectively implemented. G20 nations should give emphasis to de-radicalization programs and exchange best practices. Terror financing should be curtailed by means of Financial Action Task Force and other means. Weapons and Explosive Action Task Force should be constituted on the lines of FATF so that source of weapons to the terrorists is stopped. G20 nations should cooperate in cybersecurity with a focus on terrorist activities. National security advisors on counter-terrorism mechanism should be constituted. Clearly, the PM was referring to Pakistan without naming it and making it clear that some countries use terrorists to fulfill their political purpose.
आतंकवाद का मुद्दा है जिस पर अब तक तय नहीं हो पाया है कि आतंकवाद है क्या। यूएन का कन्वेंशन अभी तक ने भारत ने प्रपोज किया था, अभी तक साइन नहीं हो पाया है, उस पर सहमति नहीं बन पाई है।
Earlier, the German Chancellor laid out the conference's agenda, saying that huge targets can only be achieved when governments are ready to come forward and work together.
We have tried to set the agenda, obviously on economy and trade, but also on issues like climate change and energy policies. Germany has set the focus on Africa because we see Africa as our neighboring continent. We have to do everything to bring it forward.
The main agenda of the two-day conference is Shaping an Interconnected World. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the lead speaker at the second session on sustainable development, climate change and energy. PM emphasized the need for cooperation in a world of opposing realities. PM Modi proposed an internal coalition of countries that can identify technology, develop systems and build capacities to meet sustainable development needs. Narendra Modi said India is ready to lead this effort. He stressed on the need to be forthcoming on climate change action and that developing countries must have enough room to grow. PM Modi emphasized that Skill India, Digital India, financial inclusion measures are India's own initiatives in consonance with SDGs or Sustainable Development Goals.
Terror has impacted everyone from Europe to Africa to Asia. The fight against terror requires a global response. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke about the issue both on the G20 and the BRICS platform. By doing this, he made it as an agenda at this global summit and made sure that the world speaks in one voice on this issue. With camera person Surendra and my colleague Sudhakar Das, Siddhant Sibal, DD News, Hamburg, Germany.
And for more updates from G20, we are joined by correspondent Siddhant Sibal on phone line from Hamburg. Siddhant, while the first day at G20 focused on terrorism, what is on agenda for day two? There are special sessions on women's empowerment.
Well, yes, on day two, special focus on women empowerment, digitization, migration, and several other issues that concern the world. And focus will be on the communique. We will have to wait and watch what the communique says, because on the first day it was, I would say, low-hanging fruit, because terror is something which everyone agrees on. The G20 coming out with the statement late night in India by Indian Standard Time, and that statement, of course, vindicating India's standpoint on the issue of terror, especially focusing on the fact that safe havens should not be allowed in any country, a fact which India has been raising for many times now. But there will be majorly two working sessions, and a special focus on the first working session on the partnership with Africa. Remember, Africa is a special focus this time around. It's the last economic frontier leaders from Africa have also arrived.
Right.
And remember, India has also been supporting Africa's development. There have been infrastructure projects there. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been to Africa, and remember 2015 saw a major summit in New Delhi, India-Africa Partnership Summit, in which all the leaders of the African continent participated. So special focus on Africa today. And yesterday we also saw a major thing that was the big bilateral between President Trump and President of Russia. And one major takeaway was the ceasefire in the southwest of Syria.
Right, Siddhant. Now, another issue that has been on the top of everyone's mind is climate change, especially after US President decided to walk a different path. What development are you tracking on this at G20?
Well, climate change is the most contentious issue this time around at the G20, an issue that could divide the world, because terror was something in which the world spoke on one voice. Climate change might be something else in which the world might see divergent voices. We have seen a cold vibes being shared before the summit, not during the summit or in the present conditions. So we can see a kind of, hopefully we will see a kind of consensus if the hostess Angela Merkel and the US President agree on the issue, on the various divergent issues, especially on climate change. India, of course, spoke about climate change yesterday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, during his statements at the BRICS and various forums, mentioned climate change and said India is committed to climate change. And if you look at previous statements by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in India and abroad, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been saying that India has a commitment of over 5,000 years when it comes to climate change. So India firm on its stand.
Right, Siddhant. Thank you very much for joining us from Hamburg with those inputs.